Okay, perfect. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about me when I was as a solo designer at SkyPrep. The project I did last year, so redesign the SkyPrep interface. Today's agenda will be a little bit about me, and I know Hannah, you already talk a lot about me, so I'll add something to it, and then we'll dive into the project I did last year, the SkyPrep web app redesign. Then I will end up with sharing some of my experience or tips when I work as a solo UX UI designer. So a little bit about me. I'm a assistant engineer turned UX UI designer. But in between this role, I was also a retail banking officer. So when I was working in the bank, one of my responsibility is to promote the banking app. From time to time, I heard about compliments or complaints about the banking experience. So I was thinking maybe we can do this, do that to improve the experience. But at the moment, I didn't know that was actually part of the UX. So I guess that's how I sparked my interest in the UX. So I ended up taking a online bootcamp from Career Foundry, and after like 6 months, I landed my current job at SkyPrep as a UX UI designer. So last year, I was very lucky to do this project, the SkyPrep web app redesign. It's a whole redesign for the app. In terms of SkyPrep, like Hannah said, it's a learning management system that helps companies to automate their employer training. And there's two type of users in SkyPrep's. So admin, who are usually the manager or the HR training specialist who are in charge of their employee training. So learner on the other side are the regular their employer, who, for example, like workers on the construction side, they need to do the annual safety compliance training. So in this case study, I'm going to focus on the redesign on the learner side. And my role to this project, obviously I'm the UX UI designer and also I'm the UX user researcher. So from the initial research to the completion of the front end work, it took us about 4 months. There are two major reasons why we initiate this redesign. The first one is the outdated UI. From sales feedback, we heard like we have some prospective clients. They turn away from us to our competitors because they thought the UI is outdated, and they use adjective like not more than old to describe the UI. So that kind of caused the loss of potential sales. The other reason is the user feedback. So we have the user complain about the in-app experience. They said it's confusing, especially the navigation part. So that's a major reason why we initially this redesign. So when I first got this project, myself and the team, the first question I asked myself is also my team asked myself as where to start, because we have the user complaint about the in-app navigation. So I was thinking maybe we should start it from the examining the information architect. So you can see it on this chart. It's a very simple three-level hierarchy. So basically, user they can go anywhere within like 2 to 3 clicks. And the most frequently visited pages are My Learning, Course Catalog, and Resources Center. And we didn't heard anything specifically about the labeling for each location. So I was wondering like why the user said they're confused about the in-app navigation. So I was like I needed to dig into that. Since we use like Zendesk to collect all the customer feedback, or so, then I actually went through probably all the tickets there. Then I did a like affinity mapping there. So there's a special category for navigation. So there's a two interesting quote for the navigation. The first is the system will not remember where you left off. So later in the user interview, so we got to understand the reason, the use case for that is some customer, for example, if they're working, some user, if they're working on the construction side, their manager need to schedule special time and put them out of the construction side and put them into the classroom to study, to get trained. And if they cannot finish that, so they need to go back to the construction site. Then their manager will schedule another time for them to come back and continue to finish the training. So when they come back, they forgot where they left off. So they have to kind of like look for the specific part of the which part they have complete in the training. Then another quote is, once you complete a course, the system doesn't take you back to where it needs to start next. So this is interesting. So one format of training content in SkyPrep, it's a learning pass. We call it learning pass. So actually it's a package of multiple courses. So the learner, they need to follow a specific order to finish the learning pass. So if a learner finishes the first one, they don't know where to go for the second one. So they have to figure out their way to kind of like finish the learning path training. So after I did the affinity mapping, so I feel like I understood a little bit more about the user problem, but I'm still not sure because my project manager, I was like, oh, Chang, since you already done some research, maybe you should give us update, and also you should come up with some low fidelity solution to see what's the direction we should go. Then I was like, yeah, I did a little bit of research, but I'm still not totally sure about what's a real problem that they have about the navigation. So I definitely need to do some primary research. So in this case, is user interview. So while I was like scheduling the user interview, then I also started to sketch some low fidelity concept in order to for this one is in order to help them to navigate it back to the course they left off. So I was thinking maybe we can have something like a search bar on top of the homepage for learner. So every time when they click on the search, we can have a recommendation section for the courses or learning paths they recently learned. So from there, they can navigate back to the course or learning paths they learned last time. But including myself, during the team review, all of us agreed that this might be still a little bit more, still a little bit hidden for the users, and also we didn't have a search functionality in the app, so that might take more time for the devs to build something like that. So I was thinking instead of having a search bar, which is a little bit hidden, so maybe we can have a section on the learner's homepage as a My Learning section, and separated by two tabs: courses and learning paths. Under each tab, we can have a sorted by filter by recently viewed. So the last visit course or learning path will be on top of the list under that tab. But this by using a tab, that also creates a problem. So later in the user interview, also by going through the actual usage in SkyPrep of different users, we got to understand that some users they don't use courses or learning paths as their training format. They might only use like one of them. So for instance, if you only use like learning paths as your training content. So you don't use courses. So, and we arbitrarily just put the course as the first tab. So every time the learner come back to the homepage, it will be empty. Vice versa for the learning path as well. So yeah, so I think maybe we need to figure out a different way to do that. So instead of using tabs, we actually agree. So we can probably have a section, last activity dedicated to the last item, the last courses or training material a learner visit that help them to navigate back to the part where they left off. And also we still keep the My Learning session, but instead of using a tabs, we keep both like courses and learning paths on the same level, and to have a flat hierarchy on the the learner's homepage. So after while I was doing the low fidelity exploration, and I also conducted some user interview. So one of the insight from the user interview is there's no one fits all solution in terms of the homepage for learners. As I say, some learners they might use courses. Some customers they might use courses for the learning. Some customers they might use like learning paths for their training, and some of them might use all of them for their training. So that including courses, learning paths, and IRT. So IRT stands for instructor-led training. So which is like a webinar or in-person training. So the priority for different use case would be different if we just like have like the fixed order, like last activity, micro learning, my IoT calendar. It wouldn't accommodate like different use case. So eventually, we decided to make this part customizable by their admin. So the admin, they can customize the order of the session, and also they can hide the section if they don't use that if they don't use that part. So in this case, we make the homepage for the learner is more flexible based on their use case. So next, I would like to share some before and after comparison. So this is the course taking page for learners. So you can see for the previous course taking page, we have this little drop down, little square has all the course modules there, and by going through the actual usage, sometimes they might have like 20 modules for courses. So by putting them into like small like square, maybe it's too cramped. So in the new design, we kind of optimize the usage of space. We put all the course module, the list on the side, and just give them a little bit more space there. The second page I would like to share is the login page. As you can see, the password is under the other tab besides the signing tab. So we have customer feedback, email or customer support asking, how can I retrieve the password from the login page? So they totally miss the tab. So in the new design, we kind of adopt a very common solution. Just put the forget password close to the password input. And also during the user interview, we got to understand branding is huge for a customer, because this is the employer-facing service. So they would like to have like very strong branding when their employee arrive on the login page. So in the new design, we save 2/3 of space for them to customize to have to show the branding. So after I complete all the hi-fi flows, and also after the completion of the front-end work, we were discussing about what the metrics we can use to evaluate this project. So first is the prospective client reaction. Because like I said, we have the sales feedback, like a prospective customer turned away from us because they said the UI looks outdated. So far, since we partially launched the new interface, we didn't hear anything about the very negative thing about the new interface, so which is a good sign. And also within the product team, we're talking about maybe we should implement some in-app usage tracking. For example, mixed panel. If we come up with some new features, we can see if the user actually use it, how they're going to use it, and most likely it's going to be followed up by some user research as well. The last thing is usability testing. So for this project, before the development, I didn't get a chance to do the usability testing, and so thanks to Jeff and Hannah, and during the course, I definitely learned some techniques to facilitate or help the team to get some usability testing done before the development. So this is something I'm going to try in my current project. So yeah. Along with the redesign, there's a two side project I think that was worth mentioning. The first one is the UX workshop. During the redesign process, I got feedback from different departments, and everybody have a wish list. So the feature we should add it during the along with the redesign, the problem we always we need to solve. So I gathered about like 60 tasks. Then I was thinking, it's impossible. They all look like very reasonable, but impossible for us to just address them more in one project. So then I was talking to my manager, project manager, maybe there's a good time for us to have a UX workshop. So actually, I come up with this task prioritization workshop and have everybody to contribute, to vote on each task they would like to include it in the redesign project, in this redesign project. And eventually we narrow down to 5 or 6 tasks along with this redesign project we're going to address. The other side project is this UI library, because one of the problem we did this project is also we experienced a lot of inconsistency in the old UI. As you can see in the UI inventory I did for buttons, this is just one page of the buttons, and actually the 2 to 3 pages all different shapes of buttons. I call it 50 shapes of buttons. And so in the new UI, in this project, I try to create a UI library to address the inconsistency as well. So this is pretty much about this project. And last, I would like to share some of my experience or tips when I worked as a solo UX UI designer. The first one is to build a relationship with the stakeholder. I think this one comes before everything else. Building a really healthy relationship with your project manager, engineer, sometimes could be very helpful, especially when you want to do some research, you want to try something new that they never done before. You kind of need to get the buy-in from the product manager. And if they think you're reliable, they trust you, most likely they will give you the resources and even help you to try something new. And also the second one is I'm not sure, I don't know, sometimes could be a very good answer. Like I mentioned, when I for this project, when I did the secondary research, my product manager asked me to come up with some low fidelity solutions. Then at the moment, I just tell them I'm not sure if I am understand the right problem I'm going to solve. So actually, by saying I'm not sure, I don't know, that opens the door to the opportunity to get some user research done. So yeah, but I think they all based on the trust they have in you. So yeah, the to build the relationship you build with them is the foundation. And then my third suggestion tip will be when you want to do some research, have a written plan prepared. What's your goal? What's your methodology? And how you're going to conduct the research? And if you have a written plan, it looks formal and it shows that you come prepared. So you're ready to go. All you need just a yes from them. And also the last tip I have is design their way and compare both way. So sometimes when you're the only designer, and because you're designers, definitely you have the way to approach to a problem. So you have your direction, but sometimes, like for my case, my product manager and they're all engineer. So when they approach to a problem, they have their solution. They have their direction. So sometimes they want me to design the way they want me to design. So in that case, I will also come up with a solution following their direction. Then I will compare their solution versus my solution. Eventually, I think it's to help the team to find the best solution to solve the problem. So this is my tips and experience. And now we can have our Q&A time.
Awesome. Nice job, Chang. It was really great to hear a little bit more about the background of that program and where you're going. So you are still sharing your screen, but I think we just see your air meet.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Yeah, so there's a bunch of questions. I'm just going to start going through the different ones that people wrote out. So the first one is, did you release the whole redesign altogether or release it in parts? Because I know some people have a hard time adjusting to change, especially when it's drastic.
Exactly. That's a very good question. We definitely, first we test out some user, we have a really good relationship to get the feedback. Then they definitely have some requests and feedback. Then we iterate it. Then we kind of like release the new design periodically. Yeah.
Okay, so you kind of tested it out with some like secure users that you knew,
Yeah,
and so that you could, instead of launching it out.
Yeah, that's and also for some user, they get very used to the old user interface. We just let them to choose, like if you want to stay with the old user interface, that's fine. Yeah, we're gonna support you. So give them the options.
Yeah, so they were able to do both at the same time.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so the next question is the new UI AA accessible?
That's a very good question. So initially, we want to do the accessibility. Then I did my fair amount of research. I give them a list. You have to reach this, the color, everything. I think the color part is okay. But my dev team found like there's a lot of work to do actually. So actually, right now we use a plugin. I call it's my accessible me. That plugin will solve most of the problem, not all of the accessibility problem, but like the general one, the color contrast, the font. Yeah, you can use the plugin, but in terms of the tag, you have to put on like each image, something like that. That's something we're still working on. So yeah.
So it's something you guys are aware of and working more towards, but doing.
That's true. That's true, because especially our product is B2B product, and we definitely have some government clients. So if you're any service government use, they has to be like AA compliance. So that's something we're working on right now. Yeah.
Okay, and we have another question. So how did you go about implementing a design system? how did you start to get people on the same page?
Well, design system is my it's something like, well, I wouldn't call it design system. I just call it
Okay.
design. Actually, it's just a UI library right now. So I was the only designer before. So the basically UI library is just for myself, because I just found myself constantly creating the same component again and again. So I think I need to have something like a UI library. So it's also helped to address the inconsistency. But now we have another designer, so we kind of build it together. But in terms of design system, I think that's a big picture. Maybe in the future we will consider that, but so far we don't have the resources to come up with the design system. So we're still in the process of building the UI library. Yeah, but I had a presentation for my team. They're all engineers. So I just let them know how I'm going to address the inconsistent from the beginning of the design is to have a UI library. So, and I present them the atomic design, the concept. So eventually the conclusion is that, oh, it's a nested CSS. So they understand what it is.
So then they were able, or they're wanting to get on board more so with it too, do you think?
Yeah, they understand it, but it just right now they don't have the resources to come up with design system. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And so you mentioned using Mixpanel as one of your tools. Are there other tools you use during your user research and testing stages?
User research and testing. No, I think usability testing. It's a weak part in the process. That's something I'm still exploring, and we're still in the discussion of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe if people have ideas or tools that they use that they like, they can put them in the chat
Yeah.
here. And then also we'll have some time afterwards on the tables. So if people want to like jump on one of those tables and discuss that further, it could be an interesting idea
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
We have a question of how did you make that GIF where you animated the thing that you tested?
Um, I used to use Sketch. Um, and then you can use Sketch to create a different frame, then put them together as a GIF.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That question was also from Jeff, so he's curious about that too. So you can always reach out to him. How much of a role do you think your background in engineering helped you gain the trust when the trust you were mentioning?
My background towards the Trump.
So yeah, so how much of a role do you think your background in engineering helped you gain the trust you were mentioning in the process of the redesign? I guess I think.
Not a lot. Actually, not a lot. Not a lot from my engineering background. I think the way to get a trust within your team is to do projects. Then, especially I think when I started out as a new designer, it's like I confused. What should I do? What should I do? So they will give you like direction. Oh, do this, do that. Just follow the direction to come up something that show that you're a reliable person and you're a reliable designer. You can deliver. Then once you after some project, you definitely get a hold of how the dynamic how the dynamic within the team look like and how they conduct project. Then once you get hold of that, you can suggest. Once it's by doing. Yeah, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So more of the like, or not more of that like confidence or trust that you felt that you have now was actually in the showing the work that you did and building that through the time.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, doing project is the best way to gain the experience and your confidence. Yeah.
We have a really good job, Chang. That's just they just want to tell you really good job and got a bunch of upvotes on that. So. Yeah, we have two more questions. We'll go through them, and then we'll hop back into the networking. Sure. But okay, so between all the UX and UI activities, which ones do you consider the most time consuming to do solo or when you were like the sole designer at the company?
Well, I was think I think UI is also part of the UX, and but I think working as a solo designer, especially the research part, it requires a lot of planning, scheduling. That's time consuming, and sometimes you might take like 2 to 3 weeks to like schedule with some users, and sometimes they at the last minute they couldn't show up. Then you have to reschedule. That's kind of consuming. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of had a follow-up question on my own that I had prepped, but we had a bunch of questions, but it kind of relates to this of like, how might you have like changed your process, do you think now, or like how might you have changed this process now that you are not the only sole designer at the company?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Sure, like how might you have changed the process or done things differently now that you have another designer that you're working with?
So definitely we have another designer, so we talk a lot, and the other designer has a background, specifically in UX, like research part. So what we would like to do, definitely incorporate more research before the actual development or even before the design. That's the direction we're leading towards. Yeah.
Right, nice. I always like to hear that people want to do more research in their processes. I think it saves more time in the end.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so last question. Was there an onboarding walkthrough in the new UI experience?
That's a very good experience. That's a very good question. So actually, not just about the onboarding experience. We were just talking about like a couple of days ago. We were just the management team. We were just talking about the whole user journey. From the prospective customer land down the our website till when they sign up for the demo, when they sign up for the free trial, till the last minute, till the very end, they sign up for service when they log into to the platform. We're talking about probably we're gonna do a like customer journey mapping to map out their experience look like, and definitely the like the new user onboarding experience will be part of it. But this is something, yeah, in the plan, but we have to
Hmm.
work on it.
Yeah, yeah. You're aware that it's something you guys want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for chatting with us today and giving us your insights into what it was like to do this redesign at SkyPrep. It was really great. And for everyone's questions too, it was really nice. So as I said before, we're just gonna, we'll stick around for a while afterwards. If you want to hop onto one of those tables, you can disregard what the titles are, but yeah, as I mentioned, this is like the guild of working designers, and so we have a meetup group on meetup.com. If you guys haven't joined that yet, you can also find some more information about it on my or our website, thefountaininstitute.com. Where we're kind of trying to get more ideas of what topics you guys might be thinking about wanting to hear, or if there's specific speakers that you'd like to talk. We'd always really love some feedback on that as well. And then the Fountain Institute, which is what the Guild built out of, we are opening up our January course for new students. We have an advanced UX UI course. And for the real world. And Chang was one of our lovely alumni who came out of the last cohort, which was really awesome. So if you want to know more information about that, go to the website. You can also book a call with my co-founder, Jeff Humble, who was the other guy in the beginning of the screen earlier. But there's links there to book calls. You can download our curriculum. So yeah, and we just put the link in the chat too. But thank you guys so much.
All right. How can I go